Martin Popoff from the Contrarians here. Just wanted to put in a show, bit of a sad show. This is a tribute to Brian James from The Damned, guitarist for The Damned, who we lost March 6th, 2025, today as I'm speaking here, at the age of 70. He had been on tour. He had done some playing live with The Damned, I think just over in the UK, I believe. And he was looking a little fragile then. Obviously, The Damned is still going, and they it's not with Paul, but yeah, they had the original lineup there. Rats in the band now again, but Paul Gray is there and Captain and Dave Vanian. So I've never met Brian, sadly, but I have interviewed him at least a couple of times. He was an absolute sweetheart. He was so nice. He was like, call anytime, gave me his number. And I've been wishing to actually interview him again at some point, but yeah, we've lost him at the age of 70. But yes, so Brian James, legendary for essentially being, the key mastermind, the main songwriter, the very put his foot down. This is the way we're going to do things on the classic first couple of Damned albums. This is an absolute classic milestone album, one of the earliest UK punk albums. Of course, The Damned are legendary for having out the very first punk single and being the first UK band to tour the States of the punk bands as well. So there you go with that incendiary cover. That's him over there in the dark glasses, and on the back there he is with the guitar. What a guitar sound he had. Very anarchic, very stoogey, very James Williamson. Lot of excitement behind it. Didn't have to put on a ton of distortion to get a very distorted sound, very wiry. But yeah, big writer on this album, and then this album, with the great Barney Bubbles cover art. Right there we are. Sadly, with three of the guys signed. Well, the rat in the middle there, that's a little bit of a story for another day, but three of the guys signed on here, but no Brian, because like I say, never met him. I'm over here in Toronto. But yeah, he's amazing on this record as well. This is probably my second favorite Damned album. He's out of the band by the time we get to the next album. The Damned actually break up and then reform, and he's not in the band anymore. But also back in the day, I bought this as a new release, the Brian James EP with Ain't That a Shame, and two blistering amazing tracks. I love the recording. I love the singing on here, everything. Drums on this thing is by Stuart Copeland. Yeah, the other two tracks are Living in Sin and I Can Make You Cry. I Can Make You Cry is just a blazing heavy metal punk classic. It's so good. So this is a 12-inch EP that he was on. And then, people tend to forget this. I don't know. I tend to forget it sometimes. I tend to forget this band, and I thought they were such a cool, interesting, mystique package of a band. Lords of the New Church. He was on the debut Lords of the New Church, 1982. Is Nothing Sacred, 1983. Then we had the Method to Our Madness, 1984. And yeah, and then Hang On to 2003 as an indie thing. But those three albums were on IRS. Stiv Bators was in the band, Dave Trigana. It was kind of like a dark gothic, hard rocking post-punk band. They almost had a little bit of success by the time you got to the Method to Our Madness. Really cool, creepy album covers, especially the first. That was a great band. But the other amazing thing about Brian is that I hope I haven't called him. Hang on. I keep thinking, have I called him Paul James? Because I keep thinking Paul Graham and Gray, and there is a Paul James. My head isn't in a good place right now. But Brian. The other amazing thing he did. So he eventually had kind of a low key solo career, but I'll get to the high key part of it. And this is what I want you to take away from this video more than anything once I get there. But he had an album called Brian James in 1990, Brian James Gang 2006, Chateau Brian 2012, Damned If I Do 2013. I think that one was the covers he won. But in 2015, he put out an album called The Guitar That Dripped Blood on Easy Action Records. And really cool album cover, but it is a blazing punk classic. He sings on it. I love his vocals. The vocals are very fragile. They're struggling to stay in tune, struggling to get the air out. But they are cool. They have a lot of humanity and a lot of just real emotion in them. And the songs are heavy, and somehow that guy managed to capture, so 2015, so 10 years ago, so he would have been 60. He managed to capture, and very, very few bands can do this, but he managed to capture that absolute punk magic of Iggy and the Stooges' Raw Power, or Damned, 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 or Machine Gun Etiquette, which he wasn't on. Or what else? The Dead Boys' first album, the first two Stooges albums, MC5. It is just like a visceral, cutting through with a buzzsaw, chaotic, white knuckle sort of really cool punk masterpiece. And the brilliant thing about that album, even though this is a low-key solo career and some of those albums are really buried, but you can go hear The Guitar That Dripped Blood. The whole album is on Spotify and the whole album is on YouTube. So please do me a favor and go listen to that album and celebrate the great life of Brian James, one of the absolute punk masterminds. The last thing I want to say, this is just off the cuff, but and I don't quite remember the story exactly, but when I talked to him, I've been on this kick about who invented punk kind of thing, and we talked about what he was up to pre-Damned, and he was one of the guys right in there at the early stage, getting together with these various people. Who else was there? I think a couple of the Clash guys and the Pistols were there. Chrissy Hine might have even been there already. But in that sort of 75, maybe even back to 74 period, maybe it's 75. He was in there inventing punk really before like I say, and in fact, I just did a list for Goldmine of all the great punk albums, and basically anything that I consider proper punk, they all came out in 77, other than the Ramones debut. But obviously punk was well up and running in the UK, just with no albums in 76, and even as early as late 75. But Brian was absolutely in there early on, working with these guys, configuring things together. They just never got music out, kind of thing. But once they did, there's very few albums in the punk canon that are as respected as this record. And then, of course, this one, a lot of people kind of put it down a little bit. Nick Mason produces it. It's much cleaner, but I just love the playing and the performances on it. I'm happy that it's cleaner. I like this album way more than the first one. I probably like Machine Gun Etiquette even a little more. But there you go. The great Brian James. I didn't look it up, but this is the great Barney Bubbles, who we lost to suicide. Barney Bubbles was a great graphic designer. I've got the big hardcover book on him. He did a lot of stuff for Hawkwind and Ian Dury and Elvis Costello, but he did this. And, I looked quickly to see if I could find the credits. I mean, this looks like a Barney Bubbles to me. And I hope it's him, because I'm giving him credit right now for this, but what a very cool looking piece that is. So there you go. Brian James, March 6th, Brian James, March 6th, 2025. May he rest in peace.